Ironwood Games. This is Andrew. Welcome back to our arena festivals. Here we have the fair Basilica. I think, I think this is the last of the festivals. This is the white one, and so we get our Elish Norn style emblem. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So we've kind of made this deck I'm calling ETBs. To do that, the thing that I've played a little bit of, this thing I've noticed is I think I've renamed this format and I'm calling it Race to Elish Norn, because the new Elish Norn shuts off your opponent's ETB triggers. So if everybody's building decks to get extra ETBs, and then a lot of your removal is like Prayer of Binding, Borrowed Time, Static Net type things, Elish Norn shuts these down. So it tends to be, or the couple of games I've played have been, whoever can like land Elish Norn and keep Elish Norn first tends to win. Just gets a turn or two of value. Just playing these creatures without their ETBs usually is not enough to get you there at a 4/7. Very hard to have enough to force your opponent to have to block. They're not going to attack and risk the Elish Norn. And then, like, I've got a few ways to destroy things. But some of them, like Meteor Golem, are ETBs. And so if you don't, have your ETBs, you can't do it. So I think you could build, if you wanted to build like for this meta that is kind of Race to Elish Norn, more removal. I've seen some decks with just more removal, targeted removal, and things to get rid of Elish Norn. I think in general, though, even if you can get rid of Elish Norn, unless you get rid of her like right away, just the value gained and or lost is enough to make it game over. The games I've won, I've had Elish Norn in my opening hand and been able to get her out early. So, but what's the plan in this deck? If you'll notice, right, almost everything in my 2-drop slot, right, creates treasure token, treasure token, treasure token, search for lands, treasure token, or draw a card. This one's just a discard to put my opponent off of some value. And then a lot in my 3-drops, draw cards, create power stones, create treasures, create treasure, create power stone, create treasure, and scry 2. So again, trying to get turn 2 or turn 3, 2 treasures, so that way you can play out an Elish Norn and start to get into the bigger stuff. On that, the Power Stones, I don't have a ton of the artifact stuff, but Power Stones do work with trying to find a good example of like creature abilities and things, so you can like for Hercule's Prodigy, activate that. So there's some other ways this deck does stuff, and then it's got a couple of basics. It's mostly the fast lands and the ETB gain 1s, which trigger and give you 2 life on it. So let's go in and we'll take a look. I've enjoyed this, but sometimes it's just kind of frustrating when your opponent gets out an Elish Norn and you've got no removal, and it's kind of give up. But then on the other side, you get an Elish Norn early, and your opponent concedes, and that seems to be the way they go. So we've got 3 lands. That's good. We got tap, tap, tap. They're all going to be tapped, but on turn 3, we can play Gilded Pinions, which gives us some treasure into like a rock. We can exile the Glamorous Outlaw to give us some more colors. So if we put that on like Blossoming Sands, then this produces all 5 colors. Let's see what our opponent is doing here. So the deck is, because it has these tap lands and everything, it is a little bit slow, even if it draws the fast lands. I'm sorry, those are not the fast lands. They are the slow lands. They come in untapped only if you control 2 or more other lands. So, and here's the question. We're going to get access to everything. We've got a couple of blue things in our hands, so I am going to put down the Tranquil Cove just to have access to the blue. And we can exile on our opponent's turn. Just give us a chance to see what they have and keep up a few things. Yeah, and so next turn we can play this untapped. If we want to play... So that helps giving us just colors. And I do think getting the Power Stones, it doesn't let us play the rock. So the question is, if we play Windscarred Crag, we play the Pinions, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, access to 6 mana next time, which can be a Glamorous Outlaws. Or we play Hercule off of this, or we play Merchant. Yeah, I think Sculptor Merchant. At 1/4, it blocks pretty well. Getting these treasure tokens out, I think it'd be better than the Power Stones. On that, and end turn. I think that's a better line, because we can play Koilos Rock even with the tap land, and then get the Power Stones, which then we can start powering up Hercule. This gets a perpetual +2/+0, so it's actually pretty good to get early on. It looks like our opponent might have like a burn white build. I mean, most of the decks I've seen, and well, everything I've played has had some form of white, either mono white or white black, white green. This might be the first one I've seen white red. Yeah, this Merchant as a 1/4 just holds the ground really well. As we see here, they can't attack in with this guy, so they're just sitting there on a 2/2. Doesn't do a whole lot. Here's the question of whether we want to put, and I think we do want to put a flyer out, but we can flash that out on our opponent's turn. So I think we just pass. We'll get the Power Stones. The Power Stones can play the Pinions, which will give us more treasures to replace them. But the Power Stones will come in tapped, so we might as well play it on our opponent's turn. And then on our next turn, we can play Pinions off the Power Stones, Hercule off of these, and still gain a life. Do that. So I think we're in a fine spot. We're going to end. We're willing to flash this in if we need to, if our opponent does anything, I don't know, crazy. But don't give them targets. I think putting down another 1/4 when there's only one thing to hold down, to give them targets isn't worth it. This is good if we can get it going and get it big, but it does die to a lot of things. This Ballista Watcher is going to be interesting, but it does cost quite a bit. And keeping the mana open for it is going to be a little bit of work for my opponents. So I think we play the Pinions off of the Power Stones, create 2 treasures, play out a Backwater, and here the question is... we've played a spell. I think we do just get Hurkyl's Prodigy out. We have enough Power Stones to activate its ability. And we're going to keep the Rock back, potentially to block here. Our opponent, if they want to flip this into a 5/5, has to do nothing. Which is fine, because then they can spend their mana on our turn to ping something. But gaining that life off of these things, going up to 28, is pretty good for us. The only thing we don't have that would be really nice is an Elvish Horn. Alright, and our opponent has a nice dragon. Alright. Pretty good. So we can sack like our Power Stones or our treasures to draw cards. I don't need to right now. But again, if we're getting to a point where we're not getting the things we need, we can definitely do that. So the problem... but it can't be blocked when we do the Prodigy on that. So we are going to do that. We're going to attack. We're going to auto-pay, use the Power Stones. So ideally, because it gets this perpetual bonus, we want to get it up big enough to be able to trade with other stuff. Flying is going to be a bit of a problem. Let's see, do I want to... I don't really want to play the Outlaws if it's going to cost us. Anything. We're just going to equip here so we have more flying options. I don't mind sacking the treasures to things once we've got good stuff going on, but we've got 6 lands, so now in the future I don't mind for sure. Ooh, okay. So our opponent's got some good stuff. We need to get into our draw. At this point, yeah, that's fine. Resolve. It's going to become a 3/3 with flying and lifelink. Pretty good. Oh, it gets a choice, so it's gonna have flying and a counter as a 2/2. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I think we're gonna take the 4 here. We don't have a good block on it. We have the life that we can afford that. The question now is, do we want to sack a treasure? And I think we do, to draw cards. I think we just need to get in. Like, Static Net's going to be actually really good for us. Because we can remove a couple of these flyers and things that are going to cause us problems. However, I think before we do that, we'll attack, we'll auto-pay. This Prodigy gets really big, really quick, kind of out of control. Here, I'm going to hold off. I would like... I don't want that. The Innkeeper creates treasure. It'll gain us life, and those treasures we can sack to do things. So I think I will keep that. Let's see what else I have. The Twisted Embrace. Probably better just as removal. Actually, though, we can draw... Yeah, off of that we can draw. So, let's let's do... Here's the other question. We need the black to sack the treasure to draw, so I'm going to play this untapped. And then we're going to end. This is lethal next turn, as it gets up to a 7. So our opponent can gain life, find out some way against things, but I think giving it flying but not lifelink maybe was bad. It can become a 3/3. But we have, again, we have life to play with, and I'm not worried about these dragons. Our opponent has gone down. So we're going to sack a treasure, draw a card, and then I get to see both of those cards this turn, which we knew about. So we'll start with sending this guy in. Our opponent is tapped out, so I think that's lethal. And we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, so they can't be blocked on that Prodigy and the Perpetual +2/+0. Really busted. Makes it pretty good. And I don't know, I mean, and maybe it's not super brilliant, but I feel like we gain, having each of the tap lands that gains you 2 life, I mean, gains you a life, but they double in this case, you gain enough life that it's, in kind of a race situation, you can definitely survive a little bit. So even when they're playing those big creatures, I think it's really good for us, and I haven't seen many other people playing a ton of them, and or they're playing only 2 colors where then they don't have as many access to as many of them, which I think then sets you behind, or kind of makes it an interesting situation. Now here, this is going second, so I am on the draw. I need to draw 1 more land to be able to put this in. If we get this in on turn 3 with 2 treasures, I can at least Piper and then cheat some things in, of which Meteor Golem is pretty good on that. So we will keep it since we're on the draw. I don't know that it matters. I think we'll play Deathcap Glade. Alright, we didn't hit the land there. We really do want to hit a land on this one, because if it's a tap land, this can come in untapped on turn 3. Yeah, this one's fun. Drawing some cards. Okay. And we did it, so we don't mind, because we know we'll get an untapped land on turn 3. We can get into Skullport Merchant. This is not a threat. Sure. And we can... So we could Borrowed Time both of those. And then Howlpack Piper next turn. Actually, I like that. Just kind of clear our opponent's board, put them back on building. Because we could also Warzone Duplicator, depending on what they've got. Well, that's good. They don't have anything to return, so that actually worked out really well for us. Because if they had returned both of those, that would have been some good value for them. The 3/4 is a little bit of a problem. Let's see. We'll play Sundown Pass. And now the question is, we can only do it once, but next turn we have 5. We can cheat something in. and play the Skullport. So yeah, we'll Howlpack Piper. And just have to hope our opponent doesn't have Elish Norn here on turn 5. Okay, and that's pretty good. We're gonna take 3 with 1 Toxic. That is fine. Touch the Spirit Realm. Also pretty good. So we could cheat in... Yeah, I think... Well, let's cheat in Tyrant. And then blow up our opponent's board. Yeah, you get to gain the life. That's fine. Oh, it tapped... poorly for us. We should have kept an eye on that. No, we should still have the black here for that. Okay. Yeah, we're going to do that. We don't have any attacks. Now we've got our treasure. We can kind of do everything we want. And you're just a fire-breathing ability, yeah. And we still have Touch the Spirit Realm to kind of exile their next couple of things. So... Even with an Elish Norn, at this point, I think we're in pretty decent shape. We can draw cards off of our treasure. And it looks like our opponent is, unfortunately for them, hitting things that really want them to have other stuff on the board. This seems actually really good for my opponent sitting on a handful of cards. Let's start with, because we can cheat that in as well. So let's start with an attack in the air. See if they have some kind of combat trick or something. Otherwise... We'll take them down. We can only do this as a sorcery. So I think we do that, and we cheat in a City Stock Connoisseur. We get 2 blood tokens, and our opponent has to discard the 2 highest mana value cards in their hand. Which either they've been sitting on something good, or... they can't play them yet, and so I think that helps us. We can now sack a treasure. We can discard to draw. I think we're in good shape. Yeah, we're going to definitely reveal the Elish Norn. As that's... I think once we get Elish Norn down, our opponent will scoop. They could scoop... now, I mean, just seeing the Elish Norn revealed, they could scoop. I don't know what they have. They're down to 1 card. The value is just not there for them. Yeah, resolve that. That's fine. You get... Yeah, an attack. We pass. And then, because I can, and we don't really need them right now, I'm going to just sack to draw. And then we'll go to my... well, we might want the lands. I'm not sure. So if we... And here's the thing. We can't cheat something in right now. I think we just Elish Norn, but we could... touch the Spirit Realm. Yeah, I think we go here. We attack just with this one. I think we Priest of Ancient Lore. Let's see what we draw. And we don't really get a land. So we'll play out Evolving Wilds. Because we'll get more treasures back from the Jewel Thief. I don't mind sacking that treasure to clear out both of my opponent's creatures. And then we're going to end the turn. Unless my opponent just has something amazing, the attack's going to be good. I think they're dead. I mean, they're pretty dead here. I can take the 4. I don't care about that. I'll block the... Well, they don't even have anything, so I could trade here if I wanted to. I can afford to take the 4. They'll only have one thing left up. Meteor Golem kills them. We're just going to crack this for, I think, a forest right now. We're lightest on green as far as colors. And then we're not even worried about their board so much. I don't think we have enough to sneak anything in right now, but we'll just have these 2 attackers. Elish Norn can eat Adeline if you don't block it. If you do, it's going to die to the Death Touch damage. And then my opponent is still pretty dead here, so... I don't know why, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. They're playing it out, and that's fine. I appreciate them like having the struggle in doing it, but as I said, kind of whoever gets an Elish Norn out first is generally just in the prime position. There we go. I was trying to think what to do to maybe finish it, and our opponent decided the writing was on the wall for them. So, I think that might have been the last one I needed. As far as my wins, Mandrake. Oh no, it looks like we're still looking for the Elish Norn. So I'll probably play a few more on this, but I'll leave you guys with that. Again, just to take a look at the deck, if you've stuck with us and you want to see. Again, it does die to Elish Norn pretty easily because we've got removal, right? Removal, life gain, recursion, life gain, damage, right? Bounce and kind of card draw, card advantage, power stones, right? And then just things to kind of ramp in and do that. And so the goal, or kind of the idea is, especially with these lower things, is as you saw in that last one, just kind of control the board and hope our opponent runs out. Again, if they don't have enough of the things that draw them cards or get them somewhere, then they tend to run out of steam, and then we get in, start drawing the cards and doing that. So less concerned with drawing cards early and more concerned with like clearing the board, getting rid of their little things, um, and then hoping they don't play an Elish Norn on turn 4 or 5. And if we're able to turn 2 into a Thieves' Tools, right? Creates 2 treasures. Turn 3, play an untapped land, because we have 2 other lands. You have 5 mana, and you can get a turn 3 Elish Norn. Primo. Really, really good. Doesn't happen often, but again, like that's kind of the dream scenario in this deck is just plop down Elish Norn as early as possible, and then your opponent is playing underpowered cards unless they happen to have just removal in their hand and left up a removal for Elish Norn on turn 3. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a fun little event. Elish Norn is kind of broken in it, so take it with a grain. But until next time, I think that's the end of the festivals, so maybe not as much arena content as often until they have a new set of festivals or something. But thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Bye.